on just how far out that timeline is.
Situation today is that they literally have the capability to set Seoul on fire. Is that correct?
I think that North Korean capability that's arrayed north of the DMZ is very significant, and it would do unbelievable damage. It would be a tragedy of immense proportions on a city of Seoul with 27 million people and a population density of 4 times that of New York City. It would be huge. And their tube and rocket artillery alone can pump in 250,000 rounds a day into that city. It would be huge. It would be enormous.
Thank you. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Milley. Mr. Secretary, good to see you. General and Mr. Secretary, appreciated the opportunity to visit yesterday. I wanted to follow up on Senator Inhofe's questions with regard to North Korea. So it has been stated a number of times in this committee by military experts that it is no longer a matter of if, but when North Korea is going to have an intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile that can range the entire United States of America. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'd say it depends on
but when?
Well, I'd say it depends on what we do, Senator.
Well, let me actually get to that. And by the way, I actually agree with Senator Blumenthal's point about allowing the American people to have a sense of when that may or may not, both classified and unclassified, but I think getting it out there will prepare the U.S. public for a really challenging national security issue that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. Yesterday in testimony, or 2 days ago in testimony, Director Coates stated it was the policy of the United States to prevent that capability from ever being realized. Is that your understanding of the policy, General?
Absolutely. That's my understanding of the current United States government's policy is to prevent North Korea from fielding an intercontinental ballistic missile with a nuclear weapon to strike the continental United States. I believe
so that's a red line in some ways that we...
I wouldn't use that word. I don't use any words like that, but I believe that's the U.S. policy, is to prevent that capability from being fielded by North Korea.
So if we had to take action against North Korea to prevent that from happening, would your U.S. Army forces and the entire weight and power of the U.S. military dominate the battlefield to make sure we achieve that goal? If we had to?
I mean, I believe yes, but I don't want to go much beyond that. Absolutely yes, us and the ROK Army would dominate the battlefield. North Korea would not succeed, and North Korea would lose. The cost would be huge, but North Korea would lose.
Let me actually, 2 questions. Do you need anything more? What do you need from this committee or the Congress to ensure that we would dominate and prevail if that day, God forbid, ever came?
I think the priorities that we laid out in our opening statements and are in the budget, that's what I think we need. And most importantly, we need predictable funding over time.
Let me ask, General, you and I both talked about the book T.R. Fehrenbach's This Kind of War a number of times, the whole issue of no more Task Force Smiths. Could you describe what a war with North Korea would look like, and would it be similar to what we've seen over the last 15 years in Iraq and Afghanistan?
No, it would not look anything like the war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What would it look like?
Well, it depends on our actions, action, reaction, counteraction. There's several different possibilities, and I don't want to go into any great detail on any of them, but I can assure you.
What would it likely look like?
If there was a full-blown war on the Korean Peninsula, just as Secretary of Defense Mattis said the other day, it would be tragic on an unbelievable scale, and the levels of violence would be immense, and it would be the likes of which the world hasn't seen since the Second World War. It would be huge, and there'd be huge amounts of casualties.
On both sides?
On both sides, yes. It would be horrific, but I don't want to go into the details of what that would look like, and that would get into the realm of speculation or contingency plans, and that would be inappropriate in an open hearing.
You emphasized in a recent interview that our soldiers need to, through their training, need to be able to be miserable again to, I don't think you used the term, but it was mentioned in an article in the On the Rocks magazine, embrace the suck, as they say in the Marine Corps and the Army. Are we conducting that kind of rigorous training right now, do you believe, that would prepare for that kind of TR Fehrenbach, like this kind of war?
Yes.
Where we don't have logistics bases, we have miserable conditions, people are suffering. Are we conducting that kind of training to prepare our
Yes,
forces?
we've shifted back to combined arms maneuver on a dynamic battlefield against a high-end near-peer threat. And we have shifted away from fixed sites, constant flows of logistics, in our training, constant flows of logistics, et cetera. And we have gone through 16 years of war where we conditioned as an institution COPs and FOBs, and some of those had pretty significant quality of life capabilities. Others were very austere. There were many COPs up in Afghanistan or Iraq that were not very well outfitted at all. But my point in saying what I said about being miserable is that we have got to train ourselves and condition ourselves for a type of war in which you are unlikely to have this steady stream of continued logistics beyond perhaps water, ammunition, food, and some medical. But all these other things, chew huts, hot showers every day, sleeping in a bed, and so on and so forth, those will probably not be available if we fight against a highly competitive, dynamic, regional, or near-peer power. The land battle will be unbelievably violent, and units will have to move every hour or two just to survive. And logistics and lines of communications will be cut off. And units are going to have to be able to be independent of thought and mind. Your communications are going to be degraded. It is going to be significant, and we need to train to that, and that's exactly how we've shifted our training in the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here today. I want to quickly ask about the importance of our non-military agencies' programs to the Army's mission.